right. Well, welcome to this question and answer video number 13. I know it's been about 5 months since the last Q&A video, but here it is. Question and answer 13. Let's get started. During meditation, I'm not exactly sure whether I should focus on my breath or keep all my senses active. I feel that if I focus only on my breathing, I might not fully experience the present moment. Because of this, during practice, I shift my attention between my senses, which ends up confusing me. My second question is that Dr. Joe Dispenza, in his book Becoming Supernatural, writes that in meditation one should go beyond the senses because the senses don't exist in the quantum field, and we should be pure awareness only. This isn't in contradiction with paying attention. Isn't this in contradiction with paying attention to sensory perceptions? Well, to the first question, yeah, definitely, if it's confusing you, pick one sense. You know, it doesn't have to just be breathing. It can be anything. It could be listening. When I first started practicing meditation, using sounds was a really, really great way of bringing the mind back to the present moment. And so if you're switching between listening and hearing and feeling and then going back to the breath, and you're feeling a sense of confusion, like you're trying to do something, that's thinking. Any effort you have to trying to manipulate the situation and try to kind of figure out the best way to do this or try to achieve some goal, that is all thinking, and that is just getting in the way. Should I do this? Should I pay attention to this? Or should I focus on the breath? Should I do this? Really two things. One is just choose one thing. The breath is easy because it's ongoing. It moves. And so it's always something to come back to. And it's not, all of our senses kind of come out of the head, which is also where thinking happens. So the breath, coming down to the breath, is a nice way to kind of get away from the rest of the senses into something that's down here. And two is, I can't remember what I was going to say. Yeah, pick one, and then you don't want to think about it. Sorry. The second part of your question is Joe Dispenza. I don't have a lot of, I'm always apprehensive to somebody who's going to tell you to believe in something. You know, the mixture between, I have a lot of, it's my own opinion to try to mix quantum physics and meditation, and people make a lot of money doing that. It's not really, it really has nothing to do with meditation. The quantum field, I haven't really listened to much of him. I know that he does a lot of meditation stuff. I would just be cautious because people like this who want you to also believe in things like quantum energy, quantum field, which is a scientific term, not a meditation one. Like another person like this is Deepak Chopra, who thinks that the weirdness of science and quantum theory can also be correlated with the weirdness and mystery of meditation and our experience. So just a cautionary, believe what you want. I'm not going to tell you what to believe, but just be cautious about people who are talking in this way. There are different types of meditation where you basically go beyond the senses, and eventually you do, right? And going beyond the senses doesn't mean no longer noticing the senses so much, which it can in different jhana practices and things like that. But really, we stop naming them. We stop even calling senses. It no longer becomes this sense versus that sense, one awareness versus no awareness, or singular awareness. And that is a little confusing, especially if you're struggling at least with where you should place your attention during a meditation practice. So that I just remember the second thing I wanted to say. You don't want to jump the gun here. You don't want to go too quickly to the goodie. I feel like it seems like you're worried, you want to go beyond your senses. Don't worry about that so much. Just pick one sense and notice it. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say too, focus. We're not focusing. Focusing is a strain. We want to just be lightly aware. That's a little bit of a different attitude than focusing. So yeah, I know that's a little bit of a mess, but the first part of it, pick just one sense and just stick with it. My suggestion is breathing. Even though it may be hard, when you pick one sense, you can learn to come back to that one sense over and over again, instead of being confused where you should go and having an expectation, having a wide awareness or whatever you read. Just forget everything you've ever learned and just come to the breath. Forget everything you've learned, forget everything you studied, just come back to the breath. That's it. Second thing, don't focus. Focusing is a strain. You won't be able to do it for a long time. My teacher would always say, clench your hand as tight as you can, and you hold it really tightly. And he asks, how long can you do that? Well, you can't, because you don't focus, you're lightly aware of it. It's a difference. It's a noticing rather than a concentrating. And then 3, cautionary tale about Joe Dispenza. I don't know much about him, but I'm always cautious about people who are trying to teach you a belief system that have to add ideas like quantum theory and stuff like that, and spirits and all of that. Just be cautious with that, because there's a realm of just belief and practice, and there's a big difference between the two. One, they're trying to sell you something. The other one, you don't need to learn anything about. You just practice, and that's a different thing. So don't worry so much about going beyond your experience, going beyond senses. Just come back to the breath and learn to leave thinking alone. That is what is important here. Thank you so much for your daily videos. I'm struggling to get the for no purpose at all perspective, and I'm meditating or practicing for a reason, ultimately to gain the benefits. I can't make that motivation simply go away. I would be lying to myself. I no longer have these motivations. I try to concentrate purely on my breath, and often it takes all my concentration not to let thought get in the way of my practice. Added to this, scrutinizing the intention behind my practice is distracting from the purity and simplicity of the breath. Any suggestions, please? Very good. Yeah, actually, so you said the scrutinizing and the intention, trying to scrutinize the intention behind your practice is getting in the way of just the purity and the simplicity of the breath. Exactly. We're not here to think about our intentions. We're not here to try to get rid of them by thinking through them or trying to learn what they are. When I say no purpose at all, it's like, I usually say, it's like when you go to a beach and you just aren't really doing anything. You went in the water, you go for the day. That's like the purpose is to enjoy the beach, But then when you're sitting on the beach and you're just watching the waves kind of come in, go out, come in, go out, and you see the birds, we wouldn't say there's a purpose there, right? I mean, you can say the purpose is to enjoy it, but in the moment, the actual moment of watching that, there's really we're not trying to get somewhere when we watch the waves come in and go out. We're not trying to necessarily gain something from that experience. The more we try to gain something from experiences, the more we're just thinking about the future. And practice is learning to just leave it all alone. Now, you're right. If you're overly concerned about there's no purpose at all, I still have this intention to gain something from practice, we all do. I need to be clear about this, that an intention for practice, say to stop suffering or to have a better clarity of mind, these are okay to have. That's not the point. In fact, we need those intentions to just get us to the cushion every day if we can, But when we sit, the actual practice more and more becomes about presence. And if you're having so basically, the more we notice this moment, the less and less we have an intention about the future, which is why I gently push this idea of no reason at all. Because when we're sitting, we're just sitting. It's not to get to the next step. To get to the next step is what we do with everything else in life. It's a push movement to the future, always leaning ahead and missing where we are. And when you just come back to this moment really for no reason, then all those benefits you want tend to show up. But of course, that's always not a great thing to say, because then people are like, oh, I'm going to be present, leave alone my intentions in order to get those benefits. And all of that is just thinking. Attention of this moment, what you see in front of you on the screen, isn't thinking. This experience of sight that you have, boom, here I am, that's not a thought. You can think about what you're seeing, but itself, the immediacy of it, isn't a thought. And so when we come back to just experience, there's no need to get something from it, because that gettingness is future thinking. It's just another thought. So to leave thinking alone is also leaving intentions alone. It's leaving goals and plans and what we want alone. Ultimately, we come back to just this, and just this is already enough. Hola, Nathan. Thank you so much for answering my question about awareness through our senses. I had a worry I wanted to get your perspective on. I was talking to a family member about what awareness is, and for him, the answer was simple. It's the brain. He says the brain sees and creates everything, and that we are essentially nothing more than our brain. This made me feel sad because I'm afraid that might be the truth. Have you ever encountered a question like that? I asked him, if we are only our brain, what happens if we put one in a museum? Is that awareness? And he responded that no, because awareness would have died and the brain did. Muchas gracias. This is a bit of a category error here, which means whether or not consciousness arises in the brain or doesn't arise in the brain, if the brain is some sort of radio that pulls consciousness down and concentrates it, that maybe consciousness is the the ground of the universe, or if consciousness is an emergent property of the universe, none of that matters. That has nothing, all of that is theory and thinking. So you said it made you sad. It made you sad because he gave you an alternate belief to the one you already had, which I'm not sure what your belief is. Maybe your belief is consciousness isn't just in the brain, that it's everywhere. That is just a belief. And even if you sit and practice in meditation and you have an experience of going to the center of the galaxy or something like that, that experience doesn't mean that therefore consciousness is outside of you. So the point I'm trying to make here is that a lot of people mix up what we should believe and experience. You can experience being outside of your body. You can experience being as infinite as the universe is, right? But that therefore doesn't mean it's a scientific theory or truth that we can therefore say is true and you should believe it or not. So this person, you said it was a family member, they're not wrong for saying consciousness lies in the brain, because that's kind of the scientific consensus at the moment. It could change, but that has nothing to do with practice. That is totally separate. Whether or not consciousness arises from the brain or whether or not consciousness is everywhere, it doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with leaving thinking alone. All that is more like, it's a lot like how different denominations of Christianity quarrel with one another because of the differences of beliefs of theology. Does that matter? No, it really doesn't matter. That's all belief stuff. Practice is about leaving thinking alone. The conclusions that we can write down in a book and the things that we can start to believe in, that's not it. That's not the practice. So it's actually, you can use this as a practice. It's interesting, isn't it? That somebody gave you something. No, the consciousness is in the brain, and when the brain dies, consciousness leaves. You don't like that. What is that? Is it why don't you like that? It's interesting, right? There's this you that worries about a correct belief. Investigate that. Don't worry about having that's a big worry people have when they start practicing, or I've noticed a lot with New Age spirituality, is that a lot of it is just beliefs. A lot of it is just who can believe in the right thing, who's got the right, who's more spiritual than me. I'm the most spiritual, and oh, you don't believe in manifestation? Oh, you don't really understand anything. Oh, you think astrology's fake? Oh, then you clearly don't know how to meditate. Like, all of that doesn't matter. Like, please, don't confuse beliefs and practice. Just practice. Hi, I kind of feel what you mean. But in the same way, you cannot find even your toes or the camera because they are also perceived objects with names. We don't know if and how they really exist. I guess that's what physicists also are trying to figure out by going deeper and deeper into matter and getting at energy level and seeing that everything is just waves, right? I think again, this is another question of kind of a category error where what science is doing about the physical universe and trying to make novel testable predictions about what can be basically novel testable predictions about the natural world and the conclusions we come to therefore of, again, is separate from experience. So we almost should talk about it in a way that the way we're investigating our mind and our experience doesn't have much to do with what we can learn in science. Maybe it can. But just because we can close our eyes and have an experience of expansion, or close our eyes and notice that the names of things and objects no longer exist and we can experience without just kind of an objectless experience, doesn't therefore mean that everything is just waves, like that. Although that may also be true, everything is just a vibration, but that has nothing, just because everything is a vibration doesn't mean that is somehow influential on meditation experience. It's a very common, I think, pitfall people fall into. Again, it's like the last question, it's a difference between beliefs and practice. This is why earlier I was talking about Joe Dispenza or Deepak Chopra, these kind of people who are trying to tie together two things that are not the same. An experience of expansion doesn't mean consciousness is expanded. An experience of no objects and objectlessness doesn't mean that therefore I have experienced everything just being waves. You can have that experience, but it doesn't actually track on to what science is doing, because what science is doing is totally separate. We are investigating first-person experience. What that means outside of that it's not a theory so much. Now, I could be wrong about this. It could turn out that everything we experience is actually truth and science is all wrong or whatever. I'm just saying though that practice is about learning to just leave thinking alone. And even the experience of, say, you pick up a watch and we no longer call it watch. You look at the time and you no longer say the time in your head. And there's no more object. It's just objectlessness. It's just this moment without labels. And it's amazing and expansive and beautiful and real. But that experience is about experience. It has nothing to do with quantum physics or science. Now, we can have a scientific conversation about what that experience is, which is what scientists are now doing with the study of meditation and of the mind, the science of mind. There are real questions to be had there, but to make the claim, to make theoretical physics claim or quantum theory claims based on meditation is just a category error. So please, you got to be careful about this difference here. Practice, and plus it can be a very big distraction. Practice is simply the breath, leaving thinking alone. Everything else is just thinking. That's all. Thank you for the video. Your insight on being bored is helpful. The last couple of months I've been trying to be bored and embrace it. Before the last 2 months I reached burnout at work, burnout with friends, burnout with what I enjoy doing. The last 2 months have been painful, but also very blissful since I've been taking time to myself and looking at what happened in 2025. I used to rely on dopamine a lot, and I think I had a dopamine overload. Now I can't enjoy a lot of things without being bored. Is this something that happens with burnout, or is it because I'm changing my way of thinking and trying to do things differently? Well, I'd say it's a little bit of both. We have the ability to be distracted constantly. And I think it's something we all struggle with. It's something I struggle with too. It's so easy for me to just blow off something and watch, scroll. And that is just so bad for our brain. We did not evolve to get that goody candy of dopamine all the time. You know, there's I think I saw the other day this clip of a you ever seen the movie Castaway? It's with Tom Hanks, but anyway, the video was basically of saying, it said why we're unhappy in modern day, and you see Tom Hanks on the beach, and he's spending days trying to create a fire. You know, he's rubbing sticks and wood, and he messed it up because the wind got to us. He has to dig into the sand, get it down, and then work really, really hard. He's days with no fire. He can't figure it out, and then he finally gets the fire. He finally starts burning fire. Then, you know, he's dancing at night saying, I made fire, and he's just extremely excited that he did this, right? And this was kind of how we evolved. And then it cuts to the scene of when he gets, spoiler for the movie, but when he gets saved, and he's sitting there with a lighter just clicking it on and off, on and off. The immediacy of that. You know, we kind of get that really amazing dopamine hit that we need now is put into like video games or shorts or just general distraction, news feeds and all of that. So it can definitely, if you're, especially shorts, like if you're looking at short form content, and I know I make short form content and I do that just to like put it into the people who are looking at that stuff, because short form content is so damaging to the brain, because it's just dopamine hit after dopamine hit after dopamine hit, which isn't really the right way of thinking of it. It's more so just, and it's also an emotional deregulation system. At one moment you're laughing because something's funny, the next you're just appalled at the crazy thing you just saw, then the next thing you're sad about something else, and then the next thing you're horny because it's so hot, and the next thing it's just this craziness of the brain. It doesn't, there's no stability, and so the brain's like this all the time. And if we're always constantly distracted, we don't have time to just calm down. And so when we sit down even to meditate, it may be like this, and we're just like, I can't practice meditation, it's too much. But I'm really happy that you started to let go of these things, and you're noticing a sense that burnout, I've been through burnout too. It's a real thing, and to let go of the things that lead towards burnout, like things that are like shorts or clips and just general distraction, reading books instead, having conversations instead, not just this short form pleasure stuff, that can be hard in the beginning because you're so used to the amazing dopamine hits of whatever you're getting. And so when you start slowing down, it can feel very boring, which is why, of course, to embrace boredom is super important, because boredom is the pain we have for the lack of stimulation. And having always needing that stimulation, we become increasingly bored with things. Even having a conversation, or maybe even listening to me talk right now, you may start to get bored because I'm going on and on, and that's just because we're so used to something new and exciting happening. All of a sudden, boom, new switch, so anyway, I can go on and on about that, but I think that that's very normal. But please continue that. I know it's been a few months since you've written this question, but I hope that the way you're engaging things and trying to do things differently is going to produce a lot of boredom, but it's also going to pay off in the end in a kind of a more stable mind. And of course, if you practice, the more you practice, you can see that clearly. So good luck. Let me know how it goes. I have a bad habit of trying to evaluate my breath or how well I focus on the breath. Was that a mental hurdle you had to get over? The way you have built each video on top of the previous one has been really awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that's a very, very common, it's a very common thing for meditators. Yes, I went through it. I think everyone watching this video probably has gone through it. If you haven't, you might go through it. It's when you're told to, especially by other teachers, to say focus on the breath. We do that, and then then we start judging the breath. Like, am I breathing normally, or am I putting too much effort into that? Like, or is it deep breath, long breath? And the way to kind of get over that is to just not worry about it. And that's kind of a weird statement I just said, but it's just to keep coming back to the breath, and you'll eventually just start to learn to watch that too. So you'll start to see the thought, am I trying to control the breath? You'll be able to see that thought just kind of show up. You're like, oh, okay. You don't even have to talk about it. See, a lot of people make the mistake of trying to think about these things, when really there's something that saw that thought. There's something that was a witness to this whole charade, this whole thing of paying too close attention to the breath, or trying to have an issue, trying to be overly concerned about how the breath is. And you can just see that happening. And eventually when you see that and you watch it, it subsides. But another weird thing to say is don't try not to do that either, because trying not to do that is also going to perpetuate that. So just, if you're over evaluating the breath, let it be. Notice it. Just notice yourself do that. If you find that you're trying to control your breath, that's okay. Just notice it. You don't need to, nothing has to be perfect, and then just see if you can let it go a little bit. And then if you go back to it, no problem. The difficulty is the straining in the thinking. And remember, like I said too in the first question, we're not focusing on the breath. A lot of the times, thinking that we have to really concentrate on the breath or focus hard on the breath, that can cause this as well. Because we're trying too hard to pay attention to what is just naturally happening all by itself. So that's pretty normal. Another thing I did, I think I explained it, was I did a lot of sound meditation. If the breath becomes too distracting, just bring your attention to sound instead. It really helps. So yeah, don't worry about it. It's normal and it takes time. Am I the only one who cannot watch the breath? The moment I focus on the breath, I start to control it and take bigger breaths. I try to stop it, then I hold the breath. Why can't I just simply notice the breathing? I'm stuck at the basics. Well, very similar to the last question, I will say too, the basics are the practice. So there's no like expert course that you need to learn. Like this is it. This is the expert course, being with the breath. And again, kind of like the last question, there's one, you don't want to focus on the breath. Focusing on the breath is a big way is a really easy way to overcomplicate it. And of course, if you feel like you can't not focus on the breath and just notice it, like you just can't do that, that's fine. Don't use the breath then. Notice sounds. I think for people who are having trouble with coming to the breath, come to your ears. Notice the sounds around you. Notice what it is like to hear. Because you can't think about something and notice, like you can't be lost in thought about something and notice the sounds outside your window. Because when we're lost in thought, we lose our senses. We lose what we're experiencing, So when you're like you're daydreaming, you're lost in like something. You're just like, people are like, hey, and you wake up. That whole world was lost, right? Your whole experience was lost in a way. And so having the breath is just easy and traditional, and there's reasons for it because it's away from the brain. It's away from the head where we perceive our thoughts all the time and where we perceive ourselves to be. So coming to the breath is actually a really easy way, a really useful way to practice. But it's not completely necessary. You can definitely come to the breath. You can come to sounds, which are very, very useful, and you can come to any real experience. But like I said in the first question, choose one and stay with it. Don't be bouncing around and trying to see, oh, this one works for me today, that one doesn't work for me tomorrow. Just stick with one. If it's sound, just be with sound. If the breath is too complicated, it's too complicated. It's okay. The point isn't about the breath. It's not about sound. It's about learning to leave thinking alone. It's bringing our attention away from that thought factory and bringing it to this moment. And things that are happening in this moment are easy to notice. And remember not to concentrate, not to focus on it. Just be with it. Thank you, Nathan. Today I struggled with so many thoughts. They were competing with centering on my breathing. So just when I began to hum or like exhale with noise, right then you chimed in, we are not pushing thoughts away, not getting frustrated with them, which I obviously was. So my question is, can a verbal sigh or hum be used to keep one more centered on the breath? As I began an outward exhale, sigh, it did not stop all my thoughts, but did feel like it cut back more than half the chatter. Also, I love the learning of punctuating the breath, bring it to the forefront more all through my daily living, punctuating the day with the breath. Okay, one of the most important things to understand with meditation, we are not stopping thinking. We are not clearing the mind. We are not quieting the mind. We are not stopping thinking. That is so important to understand. When you go to the breath, you are not trying to stop the thoughts. And yeah, that's why I say we're not pushing them away. We're not trying to mull over them. We're not getting frustrated with them. We're just noticing the breath. So the question to you would be this. Whenever that shows up, because let's say you want to hum to get rid of the breath. Maybe that'll help temporarily. There's a reason chanting exists, by the way. It does a lot of that work. And I like chanting or mantra practice. But even then, it's an effort to try to shut off thinking. If you're trying to come up with a new technique to quiet it down, then you're still holding on to thoughts. The question to you is this: can you notice the breath even though your mind is thinking? That's it. Because if you're so focused on an expectation of a quiet mind, of a mind that isn't involved in thought, it's not going to happen. That's just more thinking itself. Right now, there's even maybe an issue. You're having an issue between thinking and paying attention to me. Now my voice keeps going on. Even when you're thinking and lost in thought, my voice is still happening. It's in the background. And with our thoughts, when we notice the breath, thinking still happens. In fact, we stop putting the gates up and we do the opposite. We let the gates open. Let all thoughts come. Every single feeling, sensation, worry. You figured out the cure to cancer. You figured out, you're just thinking all these ideas and everything. Let it flow completely, like opening the dam, when you open the dam, just let all of it come out, all of it. And as it's coming out, we notice the breath. That's all. It's not stopping thinking. It's not changing thinking. It's not making thinking quiet. It's not cutting it off at all. And if you're trying to do that, you will be frustrated for many, 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 many years until you learn that it is not about stopping thinking. You can't stop thinking. That's the point. There's nothing you can do about stopping thinking. But when we come to the breath, thinking happens, sounds happen, feeling happens, breath happens. We're right here. There's a difference between following a thought and noticing a thought. You can be in the traffic, sitting there frustrated, or you can be in the other lane, driving next to the traffic, looking at it. Seeing the traffic from afar, you're not involved, and it feels okay. Leaving thinking alone is the key. Not pushing it away, not quieting your mind. Please, please, please understand that. That is going to help you. That is the most important thing, one of the most important things to understand. We are not stopping our thoughts. Nathan, first, thank you for this 30-day series. I've been meditating 1 to 3 times a week for years, but committing to a daily practice with this program has been genuinely impactful and clarifying. One unexpected effect I'm noticing, though, is difficulty falling asleep. I've become much more aware of my bodily sensations and the exact falling asleep transition, and that awareness itself seems to interrupt sleep onset, something I've never struggled with before. I think my awareness is outpacing my ability to let go. I'm fully committed to continuing the practice and see this as a part of learning curve, but I'd really value your perspective. Is this a common phase with increased attentional introspective clarity? Any guidance on adjusting practice or complementary approaches to better support sleep while continuing this work? Appreciate everything you're sharing here. It's been meaningful start of the year. In my experience of meditation, the more I practice, the better I sleep. The more I'm able to pay attention to what is here, the more I'm able to sleep. Because noticing this moment is actually letting go. Thinking about it is different. And so there's a few things. It's hard not being in front of you to like talk to you about it, but there's a few things I think are important here. Is you can become overly thinking is very subtle. You can think about being aware. You can think about noticing everything. You can become very aware of the body, very aware of sounds, and that awareness itself, there are thoughts about that going on. Like, oh my God, that's amazing, or wow, look at that, or, just little things going on there that may even scare you. You can have thoughts of, like, for me, it would be thoughts of anxiety, of like, wow, no cell phone, I can't have that happen, So it's a really subtle thing that happens. And if that's happening for you, my guess is that it's actually not the awareness, but it's the thoughts about the awareness that are keeping you awake. It's the jump scare but I don't know. I actually don't know, because I've never really had contact with somebody having a difficulty sleeping because they were able to leave their thoughts alone. Maybe, now this is a big maybe, there's an over focus on experience that might be it's too obsessive, it's too focusing. Remember, if I could say one word about meditation, it is gentleness, it is relaxing, it is a letting go. And you make this statement here where you say, I think my awareness is outpacing my ability to let go. Awareness, because then you're saying there's two of you. There's awareness you, and then there's a you that has to let go, which then makes me think that you haven't seen awareness itself, because it's the you that has to let go isn't there at all. So the awareness outpacing your sense of letting go makes me feel like you're just thinking about all this. Now, of course, I'm saying this with a lot of grain of salt. This is really a question that would be better if we could have a conversation about it. Because I'm only reading this and I'm not able to like kind of ask you a question and hear your response in real time, which is a lot different. So, if you're interested, maybe explain a little bit to me through the chat if you'd like, through the chat, and see if you can, maybe we can start a conversation there. Or if you'd like, you can join the Patreon and do the live practices with us, and you can ask this question and we can talk about it in real time on Zoom. But yeah, I'm genuinely not, I guess, not really able to get the full picture here with really what the problem is here. So yeah, take that with a grain of salt. Maybe comment. I'll tell you that I answer the question on the video when I comment to you, and then just comment back and maybe clarify a little bit more on like what's going on, because I know it's been some time as well. But just let me know. Yeah, I'm open to having a conversation about it and helping you through that, and maybe we can figure that out together. Follow-up question. Right now, you're doing your 30-day meditation for the new year, 2026. I had this video saved because in one way it makes sense, but in another way, this idea of responsibility does not make sense. I get that I can pick thoughts to focus on or not focus on, but I don't understand is the feeling part. Feelings stay with me for hours. Even when I identify and allow, they still stay with me for hours. I don't feel anything is temporary. I know I will experience this feeling again. As Punjaji says, that which wants to arrive, let it arrive, let it arise. That which wants to stay, let it stay. That which wants to go, let it go. If it wants to stay, we let it stay. If a feeling of anxiety wants to stay for years, let it stay. If it wants to stay for 2 minutes, let it stay. The problem is your expectation of feelings to pass. That itself is control. That's probably too what's keeping it. Your subtle notion of trying to get rid of a negative sensation, which is understandable. We all want that, but that can really get in the way. That could be a real hindrance to the practice. I understand it. Anxiety is one of those things that I've dealt with for many years, and it just sticks around for many months, even years. Just a cold feeling in the heart, always there, right? But when I just stopped wanting it to disappear, when I stopped not being its friend, when I stopped trying to push it away, it couldn't survive. Feelings, thoughts, sensations, all these things, they kind of survive from our preoccupation with them. To leave them alone is to really leave them alone without trying to get rid of them. Any inkling of trying to get rid of them is a little subtle thought that's hooked into keep it around. To let go is to notice this moment. And to notice this moment is to allow this moment. And when you really allow, there's no question about the temporality of everything. So just practice. See if you can let go of this expectation. You'll experience this feeling again. That's a thought about the future. Leave it all alone. Put it down. Let go of the expectations of what you want to get from practice and just practice. Then tell me what happens. I'm just curious, Nathan, what forms of pain do you experience? I'm a human being. I've experienced all forms of pain. Emotional, thinking, physical, frustrated, everything, every normal pain you could think of, I experience. I think maybe you're asking what I particularly, like my particular hang-ups. The thing that, of course, I call my greatest teacher is anxiety and future thinking with a negative attitude. That's it's a thought of the future, and it says, what if this terrible, crazy thing might happen? That's my teacher. That's the thing that puts me back to this moment and brings me back to peace, because years and years of that kind of thinking is it's just my conditioning. And so that would be the number one form of pain I've experienced. But I've had many experiences in life that were difficult, and everyone does. I'm pretty normal when it comes to everything. So I would say I experience all the normal suffering, but what's nice is this practice allows me to let it go, and that's why I do this, because it is the most important thing, I think, to learn, is to be able to let go of the pain and to allow it and to be free. Well, Nathan, would you be willing to tell us where you got your bowls and bell? Yeah, I got my bowls and bell from a shop in Texas, actually, but it was from a woman who I don't actually think she exists anymore. I mean, I don't think the shop exists anymore, but it was a woman who is from, I think she's from Tibet or Nepal, but she got them from Tibet, and she would go there is it Nepal? I think it's Nepal, actually, now that I think about it. But she would travel there for 6 months of the year, collect all of these bowls and items, even incense. I have all these amazing incense from Nepal, and she'd bring them back and sell them at her shop, and that's where I got them. So, but you can get these bowls anywhere online now. They're so popular these days. You can find them anywhere. I even use, like a kitchen bowl, a big kitchen bowl that's metal, and you just take it and just go, it all works. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just the sound. It's just coming back with the sound. That's what matters. But yeah, hope that answers your question. When someone gossips around me or talks badly of others, or is steeped in judgment, I listen with compassion. But I'm usually at a loss of what to say in return. I often don't respond to the person, moves into talking about some other mundane thing. There is still discomfort with these situations. I suppose that's something to let go of, or to go with whatever I'm feeling. I would appreciate a pointer for these situations. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. I personally deal with that when there's gossip or there's people want to come up to you, because it's like our culture is so funny. We're like, the thing to connect on is negative opinions about, it's just our opinions about other people. You know, it's gossip. It's also the thing we connect on is complaining. You know, we're just, oh God, I can't believe she did that. Oh my gosh, I can't believe, why don't they change the parking lot? It's always been, you know, there's always, that's how you connect with somebody else, is kind of a complaining thing, especially in the United States. I'm not so sure about other places. But it can be uncomfortable. The transition can be uncomfortable, I'll say. When you're known to be somebody that somebody can go to gossip or talk crap about, or, you know, if you're, you know, usually involved in those kind of things, and then one day you decide not to be involved in those things, that transition is going to be very uncomfortable, because people already think that they can come up to you and be like, hey, you know, can you believe this person said that? Like, then why are you not reacting? Like, aren't you, you know, people are not going to understand. And so that can be itself its own challenge. But I will say it's okay. You know, you don't need to control any feeling, by the way. You don't need to, letting go of a feeling is the same as going with the feeling. You ask those questions. You're going with it is allow yourself to be uncomfortable, and it's okay. And if you're really, really uncomfortable with it, like, look, you know, you can even tell them, like, if you want, you can even be very honest with people. It's like, look, I'm trying not to gossip anymore. Nothing, you know, and it's nothing against you. It's nothing against me. I'm just trying to, you know, not gossip anymore. I wouldn't actually suggest doing that, because then people will think you're trying to be better than them. The thing is that it's okay to mess up. It's okay to make the change, and you will feel friction with it. And that friction will subside over time. People will learn through your behavior that you're not somebody to be gossiped with, that you're not interested. Like, when people start gossiping around me, I just literally stop talking. Not in a like anger way, or like, or I'm not trying to like be better than them. I just, all of a sudden, just when somebody's like, can you believe that? I just kind of like move away, and just maybe I'll start cleaning something, or I'll just walk away, or, you know, I'll just not be involved. I'll just remove myself from that situation. And somebody, even if somebody comes up and tries to talk to me about that, I'll be like, oh really? Or like, I'll just kind of smile, give them nothing back in return, because then they know I'm not somebody to come to with gossip. And eventually people will understand that, because gossiping is just the worst form of human interaction. I mean, it's one of the worst forms that we do to even try to, you know, we should be uplifting people, not putting people down, but it's just, for some reason, it's how we evolved, and it's a cultural thing, and it's best not to. So just know that it takes time. And I know this is a while since you've asked this question, so let me know how that's going. I'm actually very genuinely curious, because it is something most of us have to go through. So, but good for you, by the way. Good for you not gossiping and trying to go away. Just make sure you're not presenting yourself as better than others as well. You're not better for not gossiping. You're not a superior human being for not gossiping. You don't want to develop that ego. It's really just back off and enjoy the moment. That's it. Be kind. That's also very important. So. Also, I wanted to ask, where did you get your knowledge of meditation? What has your journey looked like? Well, it all started with Alan Watts. When I was like 18 or so, I ran into a video about his, and I just started listening to him because he sounded smart, and I liked smart people. And so I actually didn't really understand what he was saying. I just remember enjoying hearing some British guy talk in my ear on my way to college classes, and thought it kind of got me in the mood for being intellectual. I don't know why. I mean, it was like a week I didn't really listen to him, but I kept listening to him. I was like kind of impressed by some of the things he said, but then I just actually started paying attention to what he was saying. That showed me, that brought me to just meditation in general, started learning how to practice. Then I found, of course, other teachers who did the same thing. Mooji, Eckhart Tolle was a big influence for me for a while. And then he talked a lot. I always listen to Alan Watts, though. Actually, that poster right there, I think it's blurry. That's Alan Watts. So he's such a big influence on my life because of that. He kind of brought me to the practice. But he brought me to Zen specifically, and I looked up Zen masters and found Hyon, my teacher that I learned from, and moved and found him, and the rest is history. I just basically learned a lot about it. But I would say, like, to know, there's two things about knowing meditation, and it's kind of the analogy of knowing the notes rather than the music. And for a long time, I knew the notes. I could talk about meditation. I can talk about, I studied it too in college. I learned comparative religion, and that was my major was philosophy, but I was very, very interested in the question of consciousness and different cultures talking about it. And so I learned a lot about other cultures and meditation. So I just studied it a lot in every way you can think of. And then I started actually practicing with a teacher, and then that's when the real knowledge of meditation, the non-knowledge of practice, that showed up, and that's when it all started clicking. And I only stayed with my teacher. I call him my teacher. It's probably not a proper word because there's not like a teacher to student relationship. I call him my teacher because he's the one who really taught me how to practice meditation. But we didn't have like an official thing going on. Like, he has actual official students that he has that are like under his lineage and stuff like that. I'm not. I just showed up, learned from him, and left. But when I came back to the States, I started doing a lot of my own solo retreats. He showed me how to do retreats, and that was the biggest thing for me. And so that's just years of doing retreats and years of doing solo retreats, and practicing on my own is really where all this comes from. It's just hopefully from my experience and a little bit of knowledge, and that's where I try to speak from. So yeah, hope that answers your question. You look like a happy person, Nathan. Has that always been the case in general? Yeah, in general, I've always been happy. I've always been very, I don't want to talk about myself, but I've always been very driven, a very driven person. And when I was younger, I was very driven by trying to save the world. And I guess that still is stuck around with me a little bit, but very driven. And because of that drive and that sense of meaning and that sense of getting, having a purpose on this world, has brought a lot of happiness to my life, because I think having a purpose feels good psychologically as a human being, and that has been really great for me. But I've also had a lot of low points in my life, and just like everyone. But if you're asking, am I generally happy? Yeah, I'm generally happy, but it's also not always, and it's especially now that I'm getting older, that it becomes more of an, not the word effort, but something to pay attention to is those states. But lately, I've, of course, the real practice for me is not to worry about being happy or sad, and just to allow every experience to show up. Then the sense of peace brings about happiness, but really it's the peace that's been so transformative and amazing. So yes, generally I'm a happy person, but no, I've definitely struggled with my deep struggles of anxiety, depressive times. I've been through traumatic situations, so that's I've had my fair share, but practice is amazing, so that's why I'm here. This was my favorite meditation during the 30 days. The opening that happened keeps giving. Thank you. I appreciate your space and time, sharing your of wisdoms. I have a question for you though. So do you believe some people are evil then? The idea of evil and good, not evil, or holiness are, I think, ideas. It's kind of like Shakespeare said in Hamlet, I believe, where he says, good and evil don't exist except thinking makes it so. And there's a real truth to that. And I guess because of my background being heavily influenced by Buddhism, I see evilness more as varying levels of ignorance. Not a place of casting blame necessarily, but of a place people's actions are just to various degrees of actual ignorance. Now, I've been charged with this, and people saying that you've never then faced evil in your life, and you must not have actually seen evil, because when you meet evil, then you'll know it when you see it. And truthfully, I have, but again, I have to go back always, because I see what like a Hitler or a Mao as like hurricanes or a tidal wave. They're like, we wouldn't say a hurricane is evil, although it causes unbelievable destruction and is horrible. It's just a movement and pattern of nature, and I think people are that way too. We don't get to choose what mind we're born with. We don't get to choose our proclivities to certain things, or our wants and our desires towards things. And not everybody has even met somebody who says you can even work on these things. A lot of people just are emotion-based and react, and it's just a varying level of ignorance. I think that inherently most people are good, if we can call it that, but it really is just how clear are you about your experience in life. So I understand the charge of evilness. Calling people evil is saying, calling people evil is saying you are a something. When of course meditation, where nobody's in anything. In reality, nobody's in anything at all. It's all names and thinking. We say that somebody's a liar, but no, they're not a liar. They're just somebody who has chosen to lie a lot. But the charge of being a liar as a label, that's different. And we can even take that as a murderer. Somebody who we call them a murderer, but no, they're a person who has murdered people. And that extra label we attach to thing is like a thing that we do on our side that is so attacking and evil and lacking of compassion. And I think that compassion is utterly important even in the face of evil. It's kind of like when the Chinese invaded Tibet, and they captured these monks and tortured them, and the monks were worried about losing a sense of compassion for their torturers, which I think is something that is different than if you see in our Western religions, which is like, no, they did their evilness, and it's just a different perspective. So anyway, yeah, I think compassion's always the better route. I used to think loving everyone was easy, but it really didn't take much. But standing on this chapter of my life where the Islamic Republic has taken the lives of more than 40,000 of my people in 2 days and shamelessly covered it up, and where it has, for 25 years of my life, spared no oppression against me and my fellow citizens, I have realized how hard it is to love those who are truly cruel. It doesn't come naturally, it takes effort. Can you truly love someone like that? Well, I've never been through anything like that, so I don't know what you're going through. Like, what a horrible thing that you have to live under a regime that actively kills its people. And this question came out a while back. I'm actually not sure what country. I guess maybe Iran. You're talking about Islamic Republic. Either way, it's absolutely horrible. I can't imagine what that is like. I can't even imagine what that's like. And people even ask, if you've been brutally beaten, like a person has beaten you for years, or like somebody who's locked you up in a closet and chained you to a wall, and how can you actually love that person? And it's a good question, because to love somebody like that is easier said from those who haven't gone through it. Somebody who has been, like maybe in your situation, who has lived under this regime that has been evil towards its people and has been bad towards its people, and then say, oh, well, you should love them anyway, it can be kind of like a slap in the face to your experience. And that's not really what I think we mean by love or compassion, really. It's more of just a compassion, like a zoomed out sense of all of us right here, in this moment. There's people, there's regimes, there are very, very ignorant experiencing and very, very ignorant conscious beings. And when those conscious beings are so ignorant that they affect and even destroy the lives of others, it's so easy to hate. But hatred eats away at us, even if it's deserved. And we don't want that kind of ignorance to seep into our own minds. Their actions seeping into your own mind, hating them back, it destroys you as well. So the only way to really reverse that, the only way to really not let those actions ripple as far as they can is to, or as far as they do, is to become compassionate and let that eat away at you through hatred. Love isn't a thing between individuals. Love how do you say this? When we leave our differences alone, all that is left is love. So love isn't a thing you actively do now there's two ways we could talk about love, what you mean by love, but what I mean by love in a sense of compassion is this deep, grounded, universal something that doesn't change, regardless of what happens. It's the thing that the screen and everything moving on it doesn't affect the screen on a TV. This love is the screen. It encompasses all things. It's like I love what the Tao Te Ching says about the Tao. The Tao loves and nourishes all things. It loves and nourishes all things, but it doesn't lord it over them. We're not needing to be active in this love. We find it within ourselves. And when we find that sense of compassion within ourselves, to love others is actually not as effortful. It's very clear. But I wouldn't suggest actively trying to love the ones you hate so much. Just start with yourself. There's also a little caveat here. There's also metta meditation. If you've ever heard of metta meditation, you can start with, you should definitely, if you're interested in this, you basically begin with compassion with somebody you very, very much love. You evoke the feelings of love towards somebody. You imagine this person that you love already, and you invoke those feelings of love, and then you wish more well-being and love towards them. And then you take that same feeling of compassion and love and think of somebody you're kind of, acquaintances with. You don't really love them, you don't really hate them. They're just somebody that's there in your life, and you wish them well-being and wish them happiness and wish them, just well-being and love. You take that love, that feeling that you can pour out on somebody. And then you do that with somebody you actively hate. It could be a regime you hate. It could be a situation you hate. But you turn and give them, I wish you well anyway, as a sense of not for them, but for you. Anyway, it's a tricky subject, I know, and I know there's a lot that goes on, but I do have to take my stand always that compassion and love are always the ways forward, and hatred, as horrible as it can be, will never be the way. Do you think there's a difference between pure awareness and dissociation? Dissociation. Yes, a very clear difference. Dissociation, isn't it disassociation? Okay, well, yes, there's a very clear difference. Awareness dissociation is like stepping back and trying to block it out. Kind of like this, and just be like this observing, non-involved thing, away from things. Awareness itself isn't away. It's completely one with experience. There's no difference. Like I said, or actually in the last one, it's like awareness is the screen to which allows everything to dance and play on it. And that's is included. So when we are practicing, if you feel yourself withdrawing, and if you feel yourself moving away from people and trying to like not, that's dissociation, and that's not healthy. That actually becomes a loneliness problem. That becomes a different kind of, you can create a different psychological thing there where you're meditating, or you think that you're meditating when really you're just dissociating. Awareness is what there is. It is experience itself and a complete involvement. It is a total presence that is open, clear, and like the screen, isn't touched by what happens, but like a screen, isn't separate from what happens. See? So we're not withdrawing from experience in meditation. We're not finding a little spot of bliss away from the big bad world. We're entering deeply into experience instead. We're going towards it. Every feeling, every sensation, every experience, complete and utter entering this moment. Because we usually feel like we're a little bystander that sits on the outside of experience looking into it. Like, and so when you withdraw, you dissociate, you feel even more of a little eye that's away from everything. But when you enter in completely, that eye is really never there in the first place, but it kind of never shows up anymore. You're total experience alone. So yeah, big difference and an important difference. Hey Nathan, thanks for everything you're sharing on this channel. You say meditation is about letting thinking do its thing and not paying attention to it. But what about feelings and emotions? For example, while meditating, I become aware of pressure in my chest, probably anxiety, or some discomfort here and there. How do I stay present with this? I notice that I quickly jump to interpreting what it means. Do I stay present with this? I notice that, what it means, or thinking about how I can feel another way because I don't like it. Maybe you will share that on after day 7. Well, this is a question, of course, from the 30 days of meditation. So, well, that's where that comes from, but it continues on. Another question I have is this. I've been meditating on and off for almost 2 years now, and I really want to take this practice more seriously. Somewhere deep down, I know this is good, but I keep falling into the trap of wanting to get something from it, like feeling better, removing my anxiety, overcoming fear, or being able to do something good in the world. What I mean is, if there's no purpose to the practice other than just practicing, why aren't we falling into some kind of evasion from taking action as well? Does that make sense? Thanks again. All right, well, let me start with the first question. The answer is yes. You allow, in the same way you let thinking do its thing, you allow emotions to do its thing too. And I understand it with anxiety. There's that cold center in the chest that never really goes away. I call it the slow drip of adrenaline that just drip, drip, drip. And there's always something the next thing to worry about, of course. But yeah, we allow that and watch it. We don't touch it. And I have to, so we allow it and we just let it move. I think I said it before, but as Papaji says, that which wants to arise, let it arise. If it wants to stay, let it stay. If it wants to go, let it go. So we let it do what it wants. We leave it alone. That's what matters. Everything else is trying to control, trying to get rid of anxiety, trying to get that. And even if you find yourself like you said, well, I find myself trying to get rid of these feelings, and I know I'm not supposed to do that, or what exactly you said. Yeah, I jump to interpreting what I'm thinking about, and I want to feel another way. I don't like it. It's understandable, and it's okay. It's okay to want to get rid of a negative feeling, but just know that it has to pass through you. And so letting it come, letting it go, that is the practice. Letting it do what it wants, essentially, even thinking. We let the eyes see what they want to see. We let the ears hear what they want to hear. We let the tongue taste what it wants to taste. We let the nose smell what it wants to smell. We let the body feel what it wants to feel. And we let the mind think what it wants to think. We let it all happen, entering completely into it. Let it be. And that's the practice. When we hesitate and we start thinking about, oh, I shouldn't be doing this or that, then it's just more thinking. So we want to more and more include ourselves into the experience and allowing it to be completely open. I promise it won't kill you. It feels like it might destroy your chest. It's so much anxiety, but the feeling itself can't do anything. It's just a feeling. And so when we allow that to happen, it doesn't tend to stick around and ruin our day or our life. The next question is, you say that you want to take the practice more seriously, and you know that it'll feel better, but you're worried about if there's no purpose to practicing, why are we practicing? Are we not? And then aren't we falling into some kind of evasion from taking action as well? Yeah, so it's a common thing. I try to say this more skillfully, I guess. I'm trying to figure out how to say this a little bit more skillfully. Having a reason for practice isn't bad. I should just put that out there. It is okay to come to practice because you have heard about the benefits. You've heard about what it can do for you. You want to feel better. It's great. I think the best reason to start practicing is to alleviate suffering, unsatisfactoriness. We all have it. We all go through it, and it's a genuinely good reason to do that. That is why we practice. When the practice starts, when we sit, when it's time, it's a bit of a paradox, because it's what happens is it's good that, yes, we want to get rid of it, but then we go about it in the wrong way. And going about it in the wrong way is trying to get rid of our negative feelings. Or going about it in the wrong way is trying to gain some sort of benefit. It's the weirdest paradox, but when you stop reaching for stuff, when you stop trying to gain from experience, you realize that right here already, you've already arrived. There's no thing that you need more of. But it's the mind that tells you that is why we practice. It's just when we leave thinking alone, desire is left alone. All the things we want to achieve is left alone. Everything is left alone. And what's left, you realize there's nothing I needed in the first place. So it's all taken care of when we actually stop reaching for things, when we stop reaching for getting rid of anxiety. There really is no problem with anxiety. Like, I'm speaking from experience. Of course, it can ruin your life. It can make the world seem like a difficult place. It can cause you to have bad reactions. But the experience of it itself, there's no problem. You're just right here always. And so that's the paradox, is when you're practicing, if you're seeking something from it, you're trying to get somewhere, then you're just thinking. You're just doing what we always do, which is reaching for something in the future. But what I hear a lot of people do is they'll take that and be like, oh, so there's no reason for practice, so why practice at all? Again, there's like a layered cake situation here. We can talk about different layers of the cake. You can take the whole cake as meditation practice. And, you can start at the top of the cake as like the reasons you practice, your reasoning for even coming to the practice, then how to actually practice, what does the practice entail, then actually doing it on a daily thing. And then when you get lower and lower to the layer, you come to this point of like, well, leave the reasons alone. So you don't want to like worry about what we talk about at the bottom part of the layer and how that influences the top part of the layer. Like it's kind of two separate things. So when we practice, the practice is letting it go. That's the practice. But you want to talk about practice, yeah, there's benefits to it. But there's a danger to that. That's why I'm always so emphasizing not reaching towards the future for the practice. Because doing that can cause a lot of frustration and expectations. Why isn't the practice working for me or whatever? So just practice. Just practice. It's important to do it. I told my teacher once, I've never told this story, but I once told my teacher that I was telling about an experience I was having practicing in the United States. I said, right before I moved here, I was practicing and had this experience where I realized that I didn't need to come to you and practice. I didn't need to move overseas to come do this. And he said, yeah, you're right. but it's a good thing you did. Dear Nathan, this is the first time I comment since I began these 30 days of meditation. I still feel myself struggling not to stay in my mind, behind my eyes and between my ears, in order to keep myself in my underbelly. I don't know if I feel or imagine a big black hole there, getting bigger and smaller as I breathe, but not like the black holes in space, not sucking anything, just being there. It's some kind of physical and sticky and watery constitution, but not sticky like alien movies. It's not disgusting, it's alive, calm. It's not a feeling that it's not. But I've been feeling hard to keep myself there, as if my mind tries to pull me back. I have anxiety disorder and fibromyalgia. Only thing I know is that I want to keep myself engaged on these 30 days of meditation despite the uncertainties. I want to let myself enjoying the path. Does it make sense? Love, Caroline, Ryder, Brazil. I have to be honest about the black hole thing. I'm not so sure of that experience. Whenever people write in a comment, I'll say it this way, it's hard to actually understand sometimes what people are talking about unless I'm able to engage with them directly, because this black hole thing could mean, it could be I don't know if you're using this as a description of something you can't describe, or if you're actually visualizing a black hole, because you've got very specific what it is. I just feel that I shouldn't go there talking about the black hole, because I'm not sure really what you mean by the black hole in the stomach. I'm not really sure so much what you mean by that. But I will say to your question about trying to enjoy the 30 days, and I know this is far late to respond, but trying to enjoy the path. Enjoying the path is great. I think that to try to bring a little bit of lightness to this whole situation, even though it can be very unsettling at times or very scary at times, it's very great to be able to enjoy meditation. As Alan Watts would say, meditation is meant to be fun. It's not this serious thing that we do, this arduous task that we put upon ourselves to get through things. We actually enjoy this practice, and that is true. You can enjoy it. However, when we practice, a lot of the things that we have swept under the rug for many years come up. And especially if you have anxiety, and I very much understand how that feels, it will come up and it won't feel good because it hasn't moved through you. We are masters of avoidance. And when we have negative feelings, our usual reaction is to avoid, distract, run away. Years and years of doing that there's a subconscious toll that happens. And so when you practice, you start to kind of break down these walls that we put up between our everyday mind and our subconscious mind, kind of thing. And we're actually taking a peek into how our mind usually is on our day-to-day. We're just not paying attention to it. So we're surprised to find a lot of anxiety there. We're surprised to find depression or fear or weird thoughts or whatever. And that's going to happen. That's part of the path. And to enjoy it, you can still enjoy that. I know that sounds weird. You can always enjoy that this is a process of letting go. It's like bubbling up and burning off. And to feel that sense of anxiety, don't run from it. To feel this uncertainty that you may have, don't run from it. The more you allow it to just come up and move through you, the more the less and less that shows up in your life, the less and less that's a factor for you. So I would say don't worry so much about enjoying. It's going to be uncomfortable sometimes. All growth is uncomfortable. All change is uncomfortable, and that's okay. It's just part of that movement. I also will say, too, as a matter of safety, or as a matter of being kind, is don't force anything. If something feels very like this is too much or whatever, don't force it. Don't try to grind your way through the feeling. It's a pulling back and a letting happen. It's not a forceful pushing into, we're just back. We just let it happen, let it come up. And if it gets too much, that's okay. Come back to it. Go watch a show, enjoy your life, go for a walk, enjoy your day. It's just easy, easy, easy. Just be careful with your mind, be kind to your mind, be kind to yourself. Don't force a thing. This was very difficult. I remember during the 30 days of January, we brought our attention to our constant thoughts, coming and going. But strangely, when we gave our thoughts center stage, they seemed to fly off into hiding. So today, when we gave our attention to an emotion, it was different. I had thought they would dissipate like our thoughts did, but they did not. In fact, they stood firm and in my face, sort of. Obviously, my emotion was not a positive one, and their upfrontness made me feel even more uncomfortable. So I question, if I do this more often, will I come to an acceptance of working on this emotion in a way to help it stand down and become free of it? Yeah, that's very true. And even this also happens with thoughts, by the way, too. When you look at them and they become center stage, when you really try to investigate them, it's like, where are they coming from? It's almost, they're, what's the word? Is it diaphanous? Anyway, they're elusive. And when it comes to emotion, when you really feel the emotion without hiding it and get really deep into the atoms of it, and you stop naming it, the feeling and sensation itself doesn't disappear, because that feeling and sensation is different than a thought. A thought is this weird appearance in the mind and then disappears, right? Emotion is a physical thing that happens. It is physical. It is, they're both physical, don't get me wrong. The mind is also physical, but it's a physiological experience, like a heartbeat or your muscles, that's a physical thing. And there's a big connection between our thoughts and our emotions. And so when you look at it, it doesn't just disappear because it's a physical thing. It's like when you look at your arm, it doesn't just disappear. Now, when you really look at your arm and you really pay attention to simple experience, and by the way, look at your arm, I don't mean this, I mean with your attention, your arm does, the sensation of your arm, like let's say right now, feel your left hand right now. Just feel it without looking at it. Just feel it. Now, there's a subtle image in your mind of your hand right now, which gives it the feeling and sensations of noticing the edges of your thumb and the edges of the back of your hand and the front of your hand, your palm. You can kind of make it out, but you have to think about it. Now, if you just experience the sensation of that, you'll see that experience of having a left hand right now is more of a cloud of experience. It doesn't really have an edge so much. It's just you see what I'm saying? It takes a thought to put that into hand, but when you just experience the experience of it, sounds silly, it's not so solid, is it? It's not this thing. You have to think about a hand to give it its structure. So now, I don't want you to take that wrong. I don't want you to think that I don't want you to take that too far. My point there is that emotions are the same thing. When you just feel the emotion without naming it and putting a thought structure, but say uncomfortable, even the name of uncomfortable, the name of anxiety, the name of depression, the name of this or that, then it certainly shows up in your mind as something you want to get rid of. But when you just feel it, it becomes kind of the same as sounds outside the window or the feeling of your right leg. Because it's a physical thing, it doesn't run off, and it doesn't need to. That's the point. It's the thoughts about the physical sensation that we leave alone. The physical sensation of an emotion can stay, can go, can do what it wants. If you try to move it around, it will stay. And remember, the way that physical sensations and emotions need to change, especially through practice, is because we're kind of opening up this stuff that we sweep under the rug our whole life. And so we need these emotions to move through us. So it will even grow. A lot of people, when they first start meditation, they're really doing it, they'll feel like, well, why am I so anxious now? You're not anxious all of a sudden. You're just seeing what your mind has always been. It lets it all come up. And so in practice, we let it come and let it go. We don't make the demand that it goes. We let it do what it wants, instead of pushing it down and hiding from it or trying to get rid of it. We don't do anything with it. We let it come and go. And also, the expectation of what should happen might have been at fault here as well, because thoughts and emotions are kind of a different experience. Thoughts are different than emotions, and to think that an emotion will behave in the same way a thought will isn't really how it works. It's a physicality thing. It takes time to move on. And actually, thought patterns do also take time to move on. It's like when you're bouncing a basketball and you stop bouncing it, the basketball doesn't just stop bouncing. It takes time. It still bounces, and then stops. So you don't need to become free of it as getting rid of it. You become free of it by stop thinking about it and letting it be, any emotion. And it takes time, so leave alone the expectations. Leave alone the outcome. Just be free now, right here. Thank you, Nathan. This was a big one. When looking into the ball in the solar plexus, I felt like an explosion, a burst of energy going from the solar plexus to my extremities. I question if that was real or created by the mind. I'm also wondering if you have tips to find the hidden emotions one's mind can try to hide in order to not be hurting. I want to feel and release everything that's hidden, to let it go. But I know I was, for a long time, not a big feeler of feelings, and I'm worried my unconscious can still be denying some feelings. Yeah. I was just having this conversation earlier about this. Just the practice alone will bring up everything. Learning to leave thinking alone, if you really do it. If you start putting demands, and I always say this, but if you start putting demands with your practice, like I want to let go of all my subconscious feelings, it's not really up to you, if you know what I mean. It's really, we allow the mind to heal on its own. We allow it to, everything to happen as it does by itself, rather than actively trying to find out, trying to bring up the subconscious. And in fact, that can be a little dangerous if you go so actively into that kind of world without having a very, very good foundation of mindfulness. You can bring up things you really did not know that you wanted to bring up, and it can stay, and it could be a problem. You really, the practice is gentle. It's gentleness. There's no rush, and it's gentleness. The suggestion here is always this, is just sit, notice the breath, let it go, be here. Don't try to gain something, don't try to get rid of emotions, don't try to uncover your subconscious thoughts. Just do the practice as it is. Everything will happen on its own time and gently. You don't need a rocket. It's like meditation is a hot air balloon that gently, gently rises to the atmosphere. We're not taking a rocket and shooting up into the atmosphere, because it takes a lot more work, and it's a little bit more hazardous. You want to allow things to happen as they will. Just be calm and let it happen. It will come up, I promise you. The more you practice, it will come up. But don't go reaching for it or seeking your subconscious feelings. Just leave thinking alone. I promise it will come up. And when that crazy thing comes up, that scary thing comes up, that emotion comes up, leave it alone. Just leave it alone and come back to the breath. That's really all it is. Now, you can have a separate conversation about this, which I was having a conversation earlier today about like Jungian shadow work and stuff like that, where that's what they do. They ask you questions to uncover these subconscious feelings, and you might find that useful in I always, I'm not a therapist, so I'm not going to suggest any kind of therapy. I will just say that all I want to share with you, and I promise it's enough, is to just practice. Don't try to get anything. Don't try to uncover your unconscious. Don't go pushing anywhere. Don't force. It's all gentle. Even when it's uncomfortable, we gently let it be uncomfortable. We gently let things go. So be careful of trying to, and I know you're worried that your mind might be not denying feelings. If it is, it will come up with continued practice. I promise you that. Thank you, Nathan. This was good. It was relaxing, allowing the mind to be the mind. A commenter I saw recently called it kindfulness. It's helping me, conceptually at least, to try not to keep the mind separate from the breath. Perhaps today's approach got the I'm trying to do this right piece of me off the hook. When you say to us you're not trying to ignore your thoughts, just let them be, I found this confusing. How does that work? Today's meditation felt like maybe this is it. Felt more relaxed, not trying, gentle. Yeah, this it's like you can kind of analogize this to somebody, you're trying to say, pay attention. I'm trying to make this video, right? Or you're trying to pay attention to something on the desk, or you're writing a paper. And somebody's right next to you outside the window, knocking on the window like this, just continually. Ding, 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 ding. Now, you can try to ignore it, but ultimately that will frustrate you because you're gonna be like, hearing the noise, and you'd be like, oh, I gotta, come on, keep going anyway. Like it's like this forceful thing. Because in a way, trying to ignore it is still recognizing it as a factor in your experience, a factor in how things are gonna go. And so if you instead allow the sound, okay, I let you be there. I allow the sound to be right here as I am going to do this paper, and you open up instead. That's not ignoring, that's accepting. And we do the same thing with thoughts, because our thoughts, they don't show up with our control. Contrary to what most people believe and even how we feel, we are not the authors of our thinking. It happens by itself, and anyone can test this for themselves. If you just try to just sit there and stop thinking, I promise you, it just shows up. So to think that we're the ones doing it is kind of funny, but because of that, because thoughts just show up, it just happen by themselves. In the same way that somebody's just tapping on the side of the window, it happens by itself. You have no control of it. You can, instead of pushing them away or ignoring them, we accept thoughts as they are. We return to the breath while thinking is happening. And that's the difference between ignoring it and letting it be. And I always share this, but as Shrinyo Suzuki says, during meditation, we leave the front door and the back door of the mind completely open. Let thoughts come and go as they please. We just don't serve them any tea, because then they will want to stay. So we let this happen, we become gentle, and we notice the breath in the midst of this, not ignoring, but allowing. It's a clear difference. Sir, for the past 4 months, I've been consciously working on my emotional patterns, and I've made progress. Recently, I noticed that even when I genuinely enjoy something, my mind shifts to how I'm being perceived or judged. Almost like there's an imagined observer, which makes it hard to feel fully present. I also notice a reassurance seeking, fear of judgment, and possible anxious attachment or lack of emotional safety around silence, attention, and distance. I let go people, but mentally seek closure from them. Okay, I wanted to understand what the core pattern might be and how I should work on it practically. Leave thinking alone. All of it. That's good that you're noticing these things show up. Anxiety, reassurance seeking, put it all down. It's so frustratingly simple. But it's thinking that asks this question of what specific things should I be doing with my day in order to help with this very specific problem I'm going through. And really, the practice is so just let thinking happen without getting involved. All that, and what shows up will show up subconsciously. And when it does, we leave that alone as well. And that's really it. There is a fear of silence and a fear of madness even, if we enter that space without proper mindfulness. But again, we watch it, we see it, we allow it, and that's really key. It's really, really key. And the core pattern, whatever it may be, will show itself. The more you just leave thinking alone, the more you just sit with the practice, it will show up, I promise you. But knowing exactly what it is will help. But again, it will just be another thing to let go. So it's always just the practice. Just practice. And don't force anything either. Don't have in your expectations of what you should get out of meditation. Leave that alone as well. Just practice. And I want to wish you luck on that. Very good work that you said you've been working on your emotional patterns, and that's a wonderful thing. I definitely understand what that is like. It takes a little bit of activeness to do that, and I understand that. But again, the practice itself, everything will show up on its own, and we let it all happen on its own. We don't actively try to do something about it. We just sit. Right here. Hi Nathan, hope you see this. Need some sage input. I'm dealing with frustration towards myself for relapsing into old habits, causing a lot of weight gain. I'm experiencing urgency that ultimately sabotages my goals to lose all the weight now, to control people's perception of me, find safety in my surroundings and in my own body, and ultimately accept myself to be enough. How do I meet this frustration, and what should I do to abate this desire? Well, that can be really hard, you know. We all have very specific things that we're attached to, and there's always that, there's an old story about, I won't tell the whole story, it's a long story, but basically, we all have this thing, you know, we're able to let go of a lot of other things, but then there's just this one thing that's hard to let go of, you know. It might be social anxiety, it might be frustration with yourself, it might be past experiences, that memories and traumas and stuff like that. There's just there's certain patterns that go so deep that hurt, you know, or that they're just harder to see through because they're so ingrained. And if you're somebody who made a goal to lose weight, and the reasoning for that goal is for what you've said, which is, you know, the perception of other people, and what's the other things you said? You said dealing with frustration, losing all the weight now, and saying that, you know, not being enough. It sounds like you're kind of hard on yourself. Like you're not only do you worry about the judgments of others of you, but you also heavily judge yourself, which is not, you know, that's not, of course, conducive to being happy. It can get in the way. And so if you're losing weight and wanting to get it done now because you're anxious about how you're judging yourself and what other people are thinking, I would try to look into that motivation again. Like, what is it that you feel needs to change in order to be enough? Because the truth is, even if you lose the weight, that feeling, that pattern that's ingrained in the mind doesn't get lost as well. You know, you may, you know, to feel enough happens now. You know, if you want the future to be a future where you feel enough, you change the present, because it's the present moment that creates the future. And understanding the real good reason, the why behind losing weight, is important. Like, are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it because it's a fear thing? Are you doing it because you're worried about other people's opinion of you? Then if that's the case, the problem there isn't the weight, it's your mind. And to practice means to leave all thinking alone. So to leave the judgments alone, and to leave the worries alone. And that takes time. Now, I will say, there's a lot of really, I mean, to lose weight's a wonderful thing, and I wish you luck on that journey. Some people have it way harder than others, and it's not just a one-size-fits-all. But it sounds like but the weight's not the problem, it's the social anxiety-ness of the problem, or the self-sabotage and the judgment, the getting angry at yourself for not sticking to a routine, getting angry that you're human. That's what you should see through. That's really where it's at. If you can learn to leave those thoughts alone, just to sit and be with the breath, really. it all kind of just takes care of itself. Now, that doesn't mean don't try to lose the weight. Losing weight is a positive thing if that's what you want to do in your life. And I fully support that, and I think it's wonderful to surround yourself with other people who are trying to do the same, because then you wouldn't worry so much about what other people who may be skinny or active or whatever, you wouldn't worry so much about their opinion because you're in a group of other people who are also trying to do the same thing, lose weight. So maybe if you can find a group of people, that might help as well. But that's kind of just like a practical tip. But yeah, but again, I always come back to this. The practice is the practice through and through. When you learn to leave thinking alone, all of that judgment, all of that self-sabotage, all of that why am I not good enoughness, you can see it's just noises outside your window that don't impact what you really are. You don't even need to have a good sense of self, because that's also just a noise. It's already complete right here. Just leave thinking alone. That's really it. Now, I don't know that struggle personally, the one you're going through, but I hope that helps. How do you balance working and striving to do more while leaving things undone? How do you know what is okay to focus on and what is okay to just let be? Well, what do you care about? I don't know if this is really a practicing question, but just general life stuff. What is it that you actually care about? Which is a really good question to ask, because then it will point you to the things you might be wanting to do on a day-to-day basis. What in your life do you find extraordinarily important? You know, and if you find 10,000 things important, then figure out what's the most important thing. You know, really take time and write that down. Figure out what is it that you want to spend your days doing? What do you want your days to look like? And inevitably, life is sacrifice. We only have a short amount of time to live. We don't only have 24 hours in a day. And we only have a limited time to do things. And furthermore, we only have a limited time to do things healthily. Because if you, anyway, if you try to do everything, that's detrimental to your health mentally. If you lose sleep, you're trying to do too much, you miss the point of living, which is just to live. And you know, that's been a struggle in my past too, where I've just tried to do so many things. You know, even, you know, the daily guided meditation, I did that every single day on top of all the other stuff I was doing, and that wasn't easy, and that was a little bit too much. So I made the sacrifice, of course, of doing only 3 days a week, and that's been a big change. So life is inevitably sacrifice. You have to figure out what is important and take note of how important your mental health is, and figure out a schedule or a way of life that works for you. If I can suggest a really good book about this, is Oliver Burkeman's 10,000 Weeks. Is that his name? I think that's his name. But it's called 10,000 Weeks. It's called Time Management for Mortals, 10,000 Weeks. Basically, it's talking about how you have a very limited, is it 10,000? No, it's 4,000 weeks. 4,000 weeks. I should look this up. You'll find it. Oliver Burkeman, 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals. You'll find it. But it's basically in how short our life actually is, and figuring out exactly what you asked, how to prioritize what we care about, and how to prioritize work that's not, you know, intent, like that we're just not spilling every waking moment of our life with work and not enjoying the life that we're actually living. And yeah, that's a really, really important thing. So I would suggest that book, and remember that you have a limited time, so sacrifice is necessary. You can't do everything in the world, even as much as you want to. I get that feeling. I have a million things I want to do. I know I'm not going to do it. I know I can't. I don't have the time. So maybe next time. Who knows? Is it okay to be walking during meditation? Yes. Walking during meditation is a very great thing to do. You can call it walking meditation. Every retreat I do, like my solo retreats, I do actually during the sitting, I get up every 50 minutes and do walking meditation for about 10 to 20 minutes. Because it's really great to be able to pay attention to the movement of the body, the sensation of the ground on your feet, and it's, you know, the sitting doesn't really matter. and it's kind of an aid to quiet our tendency to look around and like try to get things and be interested and produce more thinking. And really, when you're practicing being mindful, being present, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You can be sitting, you can be making a video, you can be watching a video, whatever it is, you can be completely present and mindful in this moment. And so walking meditation is wonderful. I love walking meditation. In fact, some of my big insights have been during walking meditation. So yeah, there's some ways to do it, by the way. I would look up walking meditation on YouTube and just see how people do it, and maybe just find a way that you like, but the principle is always the same. Attention to breathing, leaving thinking alone, and just noticing and being grounded completely in the moment. Slowly walking is better too. I used to walk, depends, my teacher, we learned to walk in circles at like kind of a quick pace, but other teachers, with my friend who's a monk, when we did retreats together, we would just walk very, very slowly and very, very slowly. So it just depends, just find what works for you. For some reason, this meditation felt like a great relief, a true rest for a few minutes, Bliss. Then several anxious thoughts came into my mind. It ended up feeling too rough. Is that normal? Yeah, that's how our mind is always. And if you're trying to, there's a Christian Trappist monk, I think he's Trappist, but I think he's dead now, but his name was Father Thomas Keaton. And when he talks about centering prayer, which is a lot like meditation, he would say that this is not a magic carpet to bliss, because what meditation is yeah, there's an initial relief from leaving thinking alone, and it's amazing. And it will be shortened, or rather interrupted, by all those things we sweep under the rug, like anxiety or difficult thoughts. And those things that show up are also they're opportunities to let go further. When an anxious thought shows up and you're like, oh wait, that's destroying my bliss, that's not what it's about. We leave that alone as well. We leave bliss alone as well. We let everything happen as it wants to. We don't try to control anything. Meditation is not about seeking bliss states. Meditation is about uncovering our mind. And when we do, the mind orients more and more and more to just well-being and peace and kindness and compassion. And that happens naturally through looking clearly at it. So yes, it is normal, and don't be discouraged by it. And I would suggest too, don't fall into the trap of trying to seek bliss during meditation either, because that will also put you down a road of seeking constantly. So just practice, trust the practice, trust the process, and don't worry about how you feel. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. Just allow it. Allow everything with the breath. Man, I cannot sit still. My hands and back feel so uneasiness and kind of anxiety. Yes. This doesn't look like a question, but I'd like to address it. That's very normal. My first time meditating, not saying this is your first time meditating, but I'm kind of assuming it might be, just by the way you're saying that. It will feel that way because we have spent our entire lives consciously or unconsciously learning to be on the go. Move, get out, be distracted by something. Something's got to be going on. And so when we tell the body and the nervous system to just sit and look at a wall, or just sit and notice the breath, you'll start to notice how you are on a day-to-day basis. You'll start to notice how the mind is, and that uneasiness, that shakiness, the not being able to sit stillness, all of that is normal. That's how you are. That's probably a revelation in how your day-to-day usually is, but it goes unnoticed. And practice will do that for you. It brings up what goes unnoticed. So that is the practice. It's actually a good thing that you feel that way, in a way, because it tells you, it's showing you your mind. And now that you see that's your mind, you can now willingly enter this place of uneasiness and this shakiness. If you can't sit still, don't sit still. If you can't, it's okay. Just watch what happens. And the more and more you come back to the breath, the more and more you come back to what happens, the less and less this anxiety and this uneasiness tends to be such a hold. You can start to look at it as it is and watch it come and go, rather than being so taken by it and distracted by it. And you know, always enter practice without expectations. We're not learning to be blissful. We're not any of that. We're not trying to get something from practice. Just sit and look what your mind is, and keep doing that over and over again, coming back to the breath. And you'll see that your mind will start to learn to let go. So it takes time. It is a practice for a reason. So don't get discouraged. A lot of people get to this point and feel like they can't do it, and they say meditation's not for me because I can't sit still, I can't do that. And that's just because when they did, this happened, and then they never returned. And I would suggest don't let that be you. Don't miss this opportunity to wake up. I've been meditating with you almost every morning before starting my day, and I just wanted to say thank you. I really enjoy your videos more than other meditations I've tried, especially because of what you say at the end and the explanations you give. I've learned a lot, thank you. So thank you. I do have a question though. During meditation, I sometimes feel like I get bored, and to stay focused, I imagine myself walking in a completely white space. Whenever thoughts come up, I place them one by one along the path and keep walking. Is that okay, or does it interfere with the meditation process? Well, I wouldn't call that so much meditation, but visualization. There's a lot of visualization practices, and like TM, Transcendental Meditation's a visualization practice. You can do that. It's just, well, it's not so much what we're doing here. Because when you get bored, the answer isn't to get unbored, right? The answer isn't to entertain yourself with a visualization, with our practice, with mindfulness. Instead, we investigate boredom. Where is boredom? What does it feel like? Not thinking about this, but rather with our attention, boredom, because if you really, boredom is actually one of the most amazing and interesting meditation objects to really figure out and investigate what this is. Because boredom is just a lack of entertainment. It's a lack of stimulation. And to visualize, to go into your mind, you can, that's what the mind wants to do, is to think. It wants to daydream. It wants to go into different things. And you can have a whole visual process of putting down your thoughts and putting down, but they're still in a visualization. And that visualization is seen by what? That's what matters. If you're solving boredom, then you're saying to boredom, I don't want you there, and I know how to solve it. The thing that doesn't want it there is just more thinking. And when our practice is about allowing. So when boredom shows, we allow boredom. When frustration shows, we allow frustration. As frustrating as it is, I've been there. We let it happen. Even boredom, you just let it happen. You look at it, investigate. What really is boredom? What feels boredom? What is it, really? Not by thinking, but by investigating. That's the practice. What did Hyon Gak do/say that changed your perspective? When I met him, I think what was really the big change was I had an idea about what all of this was about. I kind of like a teenager who thinks they know everything. I kind of came to him like that, where I've had all this experience, but I knew I needed a teacher. That's why I went to go find him. But he simplified the whole thing and showed me that by just showing me the practice. Before I would meditate, but it would be for a purpose, or I would, it wouldn't be any kind of regularity to it, or it would be like, oh, I already get this, and I would just seek these bliss states and be in this bliss state and think that was it, and it was not it. And he showed me that, no, there's a real practice here, and there's a real technology. And he showed me the technology of Zen. And Zen is so clear that it can be frustrating for people. And he just showed me how to do solo retreats. And really that was the big thing. When we did a retreat together, it was a 1-week retreat in silence. And I've never done that before. I never stayed silent for a week and never practiced that much meditation. But that shifted everything, that first retreat. It showed me what practice really was. It showed me how to actually do this thing. And that's what changed everything. It wasn't so much I guess it was a perspective change, but it was really an experiential change. I realized, oh, this is the real work. And, you know, there's a clear difference between clinging on to good feelings of bliss and constantly thinking about non-duality and watching videos on non-duality and looking at Dharma talks and doing that and actually practicing. That's a big difference. So, yeah, hope that answers your question. Hey Nathan, this might be a silly question, but how do I let go? You say let go of thinking, let go of the idea that you will gain something from practice, but how? Do I just stop myself thinking the thought? I don't know how to let go. Good question. It's the funniest thing. That's actually kind of not a good instruction to say let go. Or there's a giant caveat to let go, because letting go assumes that you're holding on. And if there's no one there to hold on, then what are we instructing in the first place, right? Who is it that lets go? And when you say there's something that you're trying to let go of, say thoughts, especially in the beginning, with practice, it feels like a forceful thing. How do I actually let go? Do I just like stop thinking, like you said? Like, do I just cut it off, or what does that even mean? Like, how do you let go? And this is why I named this channel and everything the Attentive Mind, because letting go is a matter of attention. It's not a matter of a physical action. So I thought of this analogy. You can't drink, so here I got my coffee cup, yeah. You can't drink coffee and type out your email at the same time. Because yes, you can type an email with one hand, but just for the analogy, let's say you need both hands to type this very long email. You can't drink your coffee and do that at the same time, right? You have to put the coffee down to drink sorry, I've been talking for a long time, to write the email. You also can't write an email and drink coffee. If you want to drink coffee, you got to stop writing the email and drink the coffee. One has to be let go of, right? So the attentive mind is a mind that isn't constantly attentive to thinking. When we say let go of thinking, all that means is move your attention away from thinking. Thoughts come up and then they go. Is your attention with the breath, or is it lost in thought? Letting go simply means notice something else. So when you bring your attention to the breath, that's the same thing like setting down the coffee and starting writing the email. The coffee, and the moment you pick up the coffee again, you can't be writing an email. You're now distracted. You put the coffee back down and come back to the email. And that's the same thing with the breath. You bring attention to the breath. You can't think and be lost in thought and know the breath and notice the breath at the same time. You're either lost in thought or you're with the breath. But thinking can still happen, going on, coming and going as it pleases. It comes up, it goes away, it shows up and leaves. Thinking can still happen, but you can still be with the breath. Now, that's where the analogy falls apart, where you can't. The drinking of the coffee can be sitting on your desk while you're writing your email, but you don't have to pick it up. And that's the same thing with thoughts. Thoughts can come and go. They can be there. They can be in your awareness, but you're with the breath, with the attention. This entire enterprise, every question asked today, everything is all about, it can all be summed up in the same thing. You are not this next thought. Leave it alone. So to leave it alone means to notice something else in the beginning. Learn to notice the breath. And when you notice the breath, you're no longer lost in thought immediately. But then thoughts will come and you get lost. So we come back. It's just a practice. You're building this mindfulness muscle to come back to the breath. And the idea that you'll gain something from practice, to let go of this idea, everything about gaining something from practice is also just thinking. So leaving alone thinking leaves all of that alone. There are thoughts that are a lot more convincing than others. It takes time. Just come back to the breath again and again. That action alone is letting go. Noticing this moment, even let's say, forget the breath, just come back right here. Boom. Here you are, right now. That is letting go. That's it. And if you get lost in thought, that's okay. You let go of the present moment. No, I don't want that to, that's actually not, that's where the analogy falls. You're not holding on to the present moment either. You let it all go. But to notice this moment, to notice the breath, to be right here is in itself already letting go. And that's the practice. Okay, that is all the questions. Thank you guys so much for doing this with me. This has been just the greatest of honors to do this on as much as I can, and to be able to interact with you. And it's just been so great. And I know it's been, I think 5 months since the last Q&A, and I do apologize for that. It's after starting the Patreon and a lot of things moving around. There's really no excuse. I just kind of let it go to the wayside. But I'm back, we're back, so please ask your questions below. And if you want to get more out of this channel, it's not necessary, but I always like to say this. I did start the Patreon, and on the Patreon you can do a live practice with us. Wednesdays right now we're going to do it. I think also Saturdays we're going to do it. So it's been wonderful meeting people and being able to talk one-on-one, and it's actually a lot easier to answer questions that way as well, because then we can have it back and forth a little bit. And so if you're interested in that, I'll post the Patreon below, and you can join up and just support the channel, help me continue doing what I'm doing here, and get your questions in. But yeah, again, thank you so much, everyone. Just remember that you don't need to pay for anything to meditate. You don't need to support me on Patreon in order to get answers to these questions. I'll never give you ads. And these 3 days will always be for free until I just can't do it anymore. So just practice. That's really all that matters. Like you really have. It's just about the practice, And I can't urge that enough. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, just practice. You don't need to spend money to practice. You can just practice right here. So I wish you all luck. Let me know how it goes. Thank you very much, and I'll see you for the next one.